Today's daf is daf samach tes. We're continuing to learn the laws of the sales. When you sell something, what exactly is included in the sale and what isn't. And now we're focusing on a field. And we basically said in the Mishnah all those things that are necessary for the field, even though they're actually not like stones, which are not really a part of the field. But once you've embedded them in the field, they remain there. So metaltin that are fixed there for longevity are considered part of the field. So we went through a list of things, including, posts for a vineyard, which are there to hold up the vineyard. And then if the crops are still attached to the ground. And then we talked about trees. And all the trees are included, and even a sycamore tree and even a carob tree if they're young, and they're included in the sale. The carob tree and the sycamore tree are very significant trees once they're older. And a carob tree, once you start grafting other trees to it, or a sycamore tree, once it becomes very, very strong and you start pruning it, then it gets stronger. And a sycamore tree is very significant because they used to use it for construction, very good wood for construction. So those two are never included in the sale. But then we said, but if they are, if the stones, for example, are not necessarily used for the field, and if the reeds were not necessarily used for the field, they're not included in the sale. We also said regarding reeds, that if there's a cluster of reeds and it's growing in an area which is less than I think I said yesterday 9 kav, it should be a quarter of a kav. If it's an area that if you cannot plant a quarter of a kav of seeds, then it's a very small area and it's not very chashuv. But if it's in a larger area than that you can plant a quarter of a kav, then it's not sold with it. It's considered a separate field. Then we introduce an argument of Meir and the Chachamim. That Meir holds that by a vineyard, if you put a post by the vineyard, even though it's movable, you can take it away. But even though it's very easy to take away, but since once you put it there, it remains there and it's necessary for the vineyard, it's considered part of this vineyard and it's sold with it. The Chacham hold that it isn't. So we went through every single stage according to a Meir who holds that even if it's just ready for it, it's good enough. So for example, these reeds, once they've been peeled, even though you haven't placed them in the vineyards already included in the sale. Now, why is the peeling so important? The peeling is very important, as the Shamer explained. If you don't peel it, then if it rains, the water gets logged in between the surface and the wood itself, and that water then it causes worms to generate, and it'll climb up to the grapes. So they would peel it, so there's nowhere for the water to sit. Okay, so now we're up to the Gemara of the converse. When it says that it's not included in the cycle, it is. You say, how would Rameir Chacham hold? Avaloi, second line of the wide lines, in the middle of the page, Samach Tes Amar Aleph. Avaloi Machat. What's not included is Esavonim, those stones, they're not necessary. In other words, they're more remote, they're not directly yet related. So how would Rameir, who's always a step further away than the Chachamim, Rameir holds once it's prepared for the field already, it's considered part of the field. So what would he hold when it's not prepared? And the Chachamim hold that even prepared is not good enough. It has to be actually used. So what would they hold in this case? The converse. So Rameir is talking about the stones, you didn't even prepare them, you didn't smooth them out. And the Rabbanon, even though you smooth them out, you didn't place them in the field, then, because we said we had two opinions what the stones' purpose were. Was it to place on top of the sheath so that they don't fly away, the stalks? Or is it talking about for a fence prepared? So it's talking about you didn't place them on the oimer yet, but you have them ready. But according to Rameh, you didn't even have them ready yet, as long as you didn't fix them up. As long as these stones you had in mind to use them later, you would think it's part of the field. And Rameh says no. Ula said we're talking about stones that you set aside for the fence. Is Rameh the Masaki? You didn't prepare the stones. You prepared them, but you didn't pile them up yet properly. Those these are not necessarily is you didn't yet peel the bark from them. That means you actually didn't prepare it at all. The moment you peel the bark, it's already part of the field. And the Rabbanon Mukman, even though you peeled it, if you didn't yet set it up, it's not part of the field. And it says in the Mishnah that if you already harvested it, they're not included. We said if they're growing, they're included in the sale. And we said the chiddush is that even though it's ripe and it's ready to be cut off, it's still part of the land. But if it's not, if it's cut off, then it's not part of the sale. And what's the chiddush? Obviously, why should it be part of that? I sold you the land. I didn't sell you the yield that was already harvested. But I forgot that I was talking about, let's say you have to spread them out on the ground to dry up. So they still need the land. It's not considered part of the land as far as the sale is concerned. And nor have you sold a cluster of reeds, if it's in a larger area, then you can plant a quarter of a kav of seeds. Even though it's not a cluster, it's only a few sparse. Because it's sitting on a tract of land which is larger than you can put a quarter of a cob of seeds, it's considered a separate field altogether. We're not only talking about this is just an example. Any significant patch that can be considered separate from the rest of the field is not included in the sale. For example, you have a small row of fragrances, not included in the sale. The Yesh Lashem if not, has his own name. Even not so with it. So if it's a significant tract, you have to include that in the star separately. Otherwise, it's not included in the sale. As long as people call it by the name, they don't say it's part of the field. They say, that's the roses, the fragrances of that person. So it has a separate name. Then we learned about this guardhouse that was made out of, let's say, out of arabis or whatever, willows. And we said before, in this guardhouse, it depends. If it's not cemented down, then it's part of the field. But if it's cemented down, it's a house, separate. Even though it's attached to the ground. So you would think it's part of the field. But because it's a separate house, it's now that it's a house and cement, and if it's made with cement, so it's a proper house, not just a makeshift little house, then it's considered separate from the field. Sorry. So even though you would think the mechaber the ara, it should be considered part of the sada because it's mechubet to the ground. Kamashlan, that it's not part of the sada. Yeah, even though it's connected to the ground, you would have thought, and it's fixed in a way. It's not going to move anywhere. You would have thought that it's. He said, no, it's not. Yeah. So if it's made with tit, if the house is made with cement, then it's a house. It's not a house. What size is this house? So anyone further? Even though they're small, doesn't matter. Once the moment that you start pruning it, or the moment that you start grafting into it, it's chashuv, significant. It's not part of the sale. The question: what about what about you have a doorpost? So what holds the door from swinging back and forth? So you have inside the doorpost, you have a piece jutting out. That piece is called malabnos. So the malabnos of psochim, is that included in the sale or not? Like you attached it afterwards, that piece. According to the Rashban, we're talking about a house, even though this whole thing is talking about a suddha, but we're moving from there back to a house. And according to others, we're talking about this guardhouse. We said the guardhouse is not included in, let's say the guardhouse, when it is included in the sale, in the case where it's not made with tit. How do we view that extra piece there? They would add it on afterwards. You have a doorpost. every penny counts. Every penny counts. And maybe according to someone made out of stone, wood. So what's it then? Mao. If it's cemented onto the doorpost, it's part of the door. The Hamechaber is connected. You add it on, as Mom says, with pegs, as you say this. Because it's so easy to just pull it off. Teiku, questionable. What about a window if you have the same thing that you have, instead of slamming down, you have a little piece jutting out? There it's only for beauty, but you don't really need it. It's attached. Teiku. Also questionable. What about by the Bimia? What about even though we threw him out of yeshiva in second Pedek, if you remember, somehow, and we say he doesn't come back to the end of Bava Basra, he's already here. He's here. So after the other two asked their questions, he decided, you know what, I'll ask my question. What about you have these coasters you put under a bed so that it shouldn't sink into the dirt floor, or if it's very wet, it'll rot. So these malabnos, if it's attached to it, and every time you move the bed, the coasters come with it, the metal that's moving with it. What's it in? Teiku. Then it's a question: what's it in? If it's considered part of the bed or not? The bed needs it, but it's really not part of the bed. It's on the ground. Then it's how do you know that these trees are so distinguished, are so significant, they're not included in the sale? It says by Avraham Avinu when he bought the first field that we know there was a sale. It says over there that he bought the field in the Myra, and it says and what else did he buy? He says and he bought every tree that's in the field. Asher b'chol gvulei savim. That's within the boundaries all around. Now, that's within the boundaries all around. It seems to be extra. She just said he bought and he bought it. Or all the trees in the field he bought with, and that's it. What does he add the word asher b'chol gvul? That's within the confines of the boundaries. Saviv all around it. Two extra things. Chol gvul is extra, and saviv is extra. So Gemara says follow. Mi shetzarich legvul saviv. Those trees that we don't have no idea who planted them. So it's a tree that is unassuming, that is nothing special about it. So the only way we know whose tree it is if we look at the boundaries. It's in the boundaries of Yankel's field, so there must be Yankel's. Not because the tree itself stands out as the Yankel's tree, it's the boundaries that tell us. So only those that are needed that need a gvul to distinguish who the owner is, establish who the owner is, they're included in the sale. But those that don't need a gvul, everyone knows a sycamore tree is a chasher tree. A carrot tree takes 70 years to grow, so everyone knows who planted it. They don't need the gvul to tell us who planted it. They're not included in the seichel. Rabbeinu Gershon learns it a little bit differently. All those that the trees are very low, or even a little bit higher, it's very easy to climb up the branches and pick the fruits and steal the fruits. They need a boundary to keep them away. Those kind of trees are included in the field. But those trees that are very tall, and the branches below are very sparse. You can't climb up anything else. Those trees, they don't are not included in the sale. They don't need a boundary to protect them. Saviv, the word saviv also is extra. That I said saviv around are the boundaries. That when you sell a field, the boundaries are included in the sale as well. Included in the sale as well. Or others say that the boundaries are considered a simon, that the field is inside in there is also is all. It's not just the boundaries that you have, but you also have the field within as well. Amar says, "Hi man, the masbin." We learn a bunch of dinim regarding sales of fields and trees. How it works. So right now the Mishnah says that generally all trees are included, the exception of those two trees that we just said. Those are the only two exceptions: the sycamore tree and the carob tree. They're not included unless you highlight them. You sell a field to your friend. You have to write. It's a good idea to write. I'm selling you diklin. These are the tall palm trees. With tolin a bit shorter. And these are all different kinds of palm trees. Each one is a younger till saplings. A very, very young tree. All included. All the trees. It is better to improve the shtar. And the Rambam says very interestingly, not all bata dinim know halachas. And if you wouldn't write in the shtar, you might go to a bezin of toyin, or people don't know the halacha. They'll say, oh, it only means the big palm trees. Or the other way around, maybe only the small palm trees, the big palm trees, only the big palm trees, the small ones. He tells you that every single tree is including the sale. For example, or here I'm selling you palm trees. You can argue maybe it's only the only one that stand out, but the ones that are small that still have to grow, maybe it's part of the field. It's not including the sale. So therefore, to strengthen your shtar, be as clear as possible. What happened the following? I have a series of dinim here. He said to him, Ara vedikle, I'm selling you the land and the palm trees. Now, we just said before, when you sell a piece of land, the palm trees are automatically included. But here I said the land and the palm trees. What do I mean by that? So Chazina we see. There's a big Machei Shem how to learn Gemara. Let's first learn about Rashbam and a number of others. Chazina we see. If separate from this field, if elsewhere he owns a couple of palm trees, because said in plural, then Yavla, he gives it to him. He has to give him two palm trees, because the minimum of trees in plural is two, since he didn't nominate a number. But the Lesle, if he doesn't own any palm trees, Zavinle, he needs to go out in the marketplace and buy two palm trees, because you just told him you're selling him a field and palm trees. Now, that's superfluous. What do you mean palm trees? Obviously, this is independent of the field, so you have to find in the palm trees to sell them. Otherwise, the whole thing's a mekatos. Yeah, because that's already included in the sale. So why did you mention two?
Because he was trying to specify. We just said it's good to be.
We'll get to the second. And if, let's say, he does have palm trees, but he already put a lien on it for a balchayv, a lender. Particularly technically, he has to pay out the lender the value of 2 palm trees. Now, the Rashbam learns that it's an addition. Chase and others learn no, that actually what you're doing is you're reducing. Even though you're in the, I'm saying you're only getting this field 2 palm trees. Normally you get all the palm trees. But I'm telling you, I'm only giving you 2 palm trees. Why we just said a minute ago that you write down the trees in order to strengthen your status. So why lose out? Says Taisa, that's talking about in a star. Here we're talking about a case he did about pet. Where does it say Omale? It says he told him. So when there's no star and he says you're getting 2 palm trees, he's reducing what you're entitled to, not increasing like the Rashbam learns. That's Shittas Taisus. And also Taisus, there you delineate. You went through 4 different size palm trees. Here you only mentioned 1, Diklin. So therefore you're not trying to improve the star. No, even though the star, I wouldn't use the svara that we mentioned before. Then he continues. Zavin late, Arabidically, he says a land with its palm trees. Chazina we see. It is badically, if there were palm trees, then obviously young. But he has to obviously give it. Of the lab, it's not Mekatos. I told you I'm saying the land with the palm trees, but there are no palm trees there. He didn't say and 2 palm trees. I'm telling you the land that has palm trees. But if there are no palm trees there, then obviously this isn't the land. The whole thing Mekatos. Ara, what happened? He says, Ara Beidikle, what do you call it? The Rashbam already asks. We just talked about Barichas yesterday and a few times. There's no cheating by Karka. What do you mean Mekatos? I told you the land, we just said that, pay any price. And he says, there's a big difference between talking about the value of the land or talking about what kind of land you're selling me. And here you tell me a land with palm trees doesn't exist. That's totally different. Don't do anything. No, that's Mekatos. Okay, Ara Beidikle, a land that can grow palm trees. Leslie Dikle, even if there are no palm trees, the sale is a valid sale. Why? The Chazil is Dikle Kamla. All he said was a land that's suitable to grow palm trees. He didn't say there are palm trees there. What happened? He says, Bar Medikle Planya. I am selling you everything except this particular palm tree. What happens then? Chazina we see. No, but he has like 100 palm trees growing there. He says, that palm tree I'm not selling you. What did he mean by that palm tree? Did he mean I'm selling you any palm trees? Or just only that particular palm tree? So you might introduce a new idea. There's different qualities of palm trees. If you want to retain a particular palm tree, means you want to have some of the dates. You want to keep some of the dates. So we're going to assume that palm tree and anything better, superior to that tree, I want to retain for myself. Anything inferior to that tree is sold. So, Chazin, if that's the best palm tree that you have, the Shudishida, you want to retain it for yourself for the date. And if it's a poor quality, then Koshkin are surely better quality in retaining. And the only ones I'm selling are the ones that are inferior. What happens is he says, I'm selling you this field, but not the trees. What's he holding back? If there are trees on the field, then generally we don't call a palm tree a tree. It's by the generic name trees. You would say palm tree. So if you say I'm holding back a tree, so if he has trees, then I'm holding back the trees, but the palm tree sold. I never said I'm holding back a palm tree, it's not a tree. But if the only kind of trees that he has there is palm trees, and obviously when he used the word trees, what did he mean? He's referring to the palm tree. We're not going to say that is a mekatos, because normally you don't call a palm tree. It's only when you have other trees, and a palm tree, you wouldn't call a palm tree the trees, because the trees are the mundane things, not the palm tree. But if if the only trees that you have in your field are palm trees, you would refer to it as elonis, because that's the only elon you have in your field. What happened? You have no palm trees, but vineyards also does not go by the name of trees. They're called vines, grapevines. But what happened? What happened? You have no trees in your field. The only thing you have is a grapevine. And you said, I'm selling you the field, not the trees. And obviously what you're retaining for yourself is a varmagufne, you're holding back the grapes. What about ilone vigufne? What about if you say trees and grapes? Yeah, he had trees and he had grapes in his field. And he says, levar mi ilone. Then the only thing you're holding back are the trees, but the grapes are sold because they're not known by the name. Iloni vidikli, if he has trees and a palm tree growing in the field, so I'm holding back the trees. Levar mi iloni, he's holding back. What about gufli vidikli? What happens? The only thing he has growing in the field are vines and palms. Now we're saying they're both not called, they're not referred to as trees. They're both a bit more significant than an ordinary mundane tree, right? And so, but you're saying I'm selling you the field, but I'm holding back the trees. What are you holding back? Which is inferior to which? You have palm trees and you have grapevines. In this case, we'll say that the trees is probably referring to the vines, not to the decal. Because the decal is even more chashuv than a vine. But you're holding back the trees. In this case, is referring to gufne because dikla is even more chashuv than gufne. Than gufne, yeah. Says the Gemara further. Sorry,
In English,
palm tree and the vine. True. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. We also learned that palm trees is what they sustained them. The people who were poor, they used to sustained on these palm dates and in bubble. Honey to use the bubble, they had plenty of palm trees that kept them going. Remember this? So went to bubble. First, he was so couldn't understand how come they weren't bigger scholars than they were because they had so many palm trees. And after he sat in he had diarrhea. He said, I don't know how they learned Torah such problem, but that was their basic sustenance. What happened? You sell a field. You said that palm trees are included. what and you're holding back a tree. What's a tree by a palm tree? Amarav. If you say I'm holding back trees, which palm trees are considered trees and which do we say is considered part of the field? Now remember, palm trees has no branches below. The only way you can get to those dates is with a ladder or with a rope. So if it's that tall that you need a rope to climb up there, then that's choshev, havishir. And you're saying that's considered a tree. Then that's a tree. But if it's a palm tree that is much lower than that, you can reach. It doesn't really grow properly, dates and everything else. So when that's considered part of the field. It's not considered a tree. The Dayani Goyle Amri and the Dayanim of Golus, which is Shmuel and Kanda, they said, if the tree is that weak, it's that young that you can bend easily, that when you take your cow and you plow around it, it hits the tree, it bends the tree. That's not a tree. It's like part of the land. But if the animal hits it or the plow should hit it, it doesn't bend the tree straight away, havishir, then it's a tree. Like pligi. They're not arguing. The difference is Rav is talking about a palm tree, which are very tall. You can't get to it unless you have a rope. So that's the criteria. If you need a rope, it's a tree. If you don't need it, it's not a tree. And Hobby London, but all the other trees, you don't need a rope ever because there are so many branches, you can climb from one branch to the next branch. So what's the criteria there? The criteria there is if it's still tender, that you can easily bend it when your animals are plowing, it's not a tree. It's still part of like the ground. But once it's big enough, strong enough, then it's then it's a tree.